Okay, now that you know where all of your different objects are in Illustrator, what we need to do now is to start back in on the toolbar, and we are going to use shapes. So before we went on break, I told you about the black arrow. That black arrow is called your selection tool. You guys see where that is? That's the very first tool on your toolbar. Whenever you don't know what to do or where to go, always find that black arrow tool. Alright, now if you go down to about 3 or 4 shapes, you'll find the type tool, the big T. Underneath that is the rectangle tool. Now before, you guys asked me about that little black triangle. That little black triangle will let you know if there are other tools underneath it that are similar to the one above it. Okay, so if you come back to Illustrator and now you see the ellipse tool is active, it's on top, you can hold it down to get to all the other tools in your toolbar. And now over on the far right hand side, when you hold down that tool, over on the far right hand side, you'll see this little tab called a tear off. Click on that. Your tear off will allow you to see all of your tools in that one section at the same time. And you can make as many of these little tear offs as you want, as a matter of fact. You can keep tearing them off. So if you want to have one down here, you want to have one up here, you can make as many of these little tear offs as possible. Okay? Now again, I'm asking you guys to follow me and do what I do instead of playing around with the other tools, and we will get there in just a second. Especially if your name is George. Okay? Alright. So what I'd like for you guys to all do is to hold down the rectangle tool, get to a tear off, tear it off, and let's start at the beginning with the first tool that's called the rectangle tool. But hold on. I need to introduce you to my friends Fill and Stroke. If you look on your toolbar, down at the very, very bottom, you'll get to Fill and you'll get to Stroke. Let me arrange my windows a little different. Workspace. Panel. There we go. So take a look up at the board. If you put your mouse over any of these tools, it'll tell you exactly what it is. So right here, here's Fill, and here's Stroke. If you click on those, it'll bring whichever one is on the bottom, it'll bring it to the front, and then that will let you modify it. Okay. Take a look at this double arrow right here. This double arrow is the swap fill and the swap stroke button. So you can swap fill and stroke. You can swap the colors inside of them. Then this one might help you here. This is called the default fill and stroke. This will automatically change to black and white. It'll change it to a white fill with a black stroke. So if you have any colors in there at any time, you can automatically go back to white and black by clicking that button right there. Fill and stroke right there. The next one is this red line right here. Whichever one you have on top, whether it be fill or stroke, and you click this none button, everybody see where I'm at? That none button will take out the fill or take out the stroke. So you can have an object that doesn't have a stroke, or you could have an object that doesn't have a fill, or you could even have an object, which is then a path, that doesn't have a fill or a stroke. And it's just a path, no color. Remember, that was one of our magic words earlier from today. Path. Anybody ever watch Pee-wee's Playhouse?
No.
When they had the secret word of the day, and everybody went crazy?
What happened to that show?
Okay. So, do what I did up here on the board. Take out the fill and take out the stroke for each one of these. After you do that, click back on your default fill and your default stroke. Okay, so you have to know how to remove those from your object, and that's how you do it. The none button right here, default fill, default stroke. Okay, so we cool with that? Now, you may want to change the color of your fill and stroke, and this is how you do it. Click on the stroke and then click on the fill and then double click on the fill, and it brings up the color picker, the color selector. You can move this slider in the middle, you can move that up and down to get a wider range of colors. And then you just click on the color that you want. You can click and you can drag as well if you want to get a specific color. You guys see how I'm doing that? So when you find a color that you like, click OK. And you'll notice it puts it right into the fill. And you can do the exact same thing for the stroke as well. So find a different color for your stroke. And click OK. Yes. That little yellow arrow, that lets you know that it's not a web safe color, meaning that same color doesn't convert to the web. So it just wants you to know that. That's a good question though. So once you've changed your fill and you've changed your stroke to a color, what I want you to do next is hit the default fill and stroke, the black and white, change it right back to black and white. I just want you to know that that's there and how to use it. Okay? Hit the default fill and stroke. Yeah. That'll put in a gradient. But we're not there yet. Once you change it back to black and white, go ahead and select two more colors. Double click on the fill, double click on the stroke. Find two colors that you like. And now go back to that tear off that you made earlier of your shapes. Click on the rectangle tool and click and drag, and you can drag out a rectangle to your liking and say voila. It's not a matter of how big do I want it, it's a matter of how big do you want it. Now, if you mess up on something or you want to backtrack, you can do Control Z to undo. And you can do multiple undo. So you can do Control Z a couple times, and it doesn't erase what you did. What it does is it backs up. It'll undo what you did. And Control Y is redo from the gentleman to my left. No. Okay, so everybody know how to make a rectangle. This time, make a rounded rectangle. Ooh, that's the next tool on your toolbar. If you want to move those tools, if you want to move those shapes, what tool on your toolbar do you need in order to move those shapes? The black arrow, the selection tool, will let you move those shapes. The black arrow will also allow you to resize those shapes. Stretch it, pull it, squish it, squeeze it. And I'm so glad that I amused you all. Take a look up at the screen, please. If you're clicked on the black arrow, that's the default tool in Illustrator.